He is truly an NFL insider. So with that, I'm going to introduce Neil, who has a lot to say about NIL from an insider's perspective.
Tim, I appreciate it. I'm going to try really hard to be worthy of that introduction. I'm not sure if I'll be able to. And it's been a privilege to listen to CC and Josh, and they're a tough follow. Before I start, y'all, I want to tell y'all football is my corner of the world. And I know this is a very diverse group, and we've got people from different sports and different areas. I can only speak fluently on one sport. And so I'm going to limit what I say to that. And I apologize in advance if doesn't have a lot of application to you. Also, as far as rules and licensing and the nuances of things, I want to defer to our previous three speakers. I don't know that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the practical application of and how it affects football, where we stand on July 9th. Let me get started. I'm going to try to talk very fast because I don't want to hog all the rest of the time. I know we have questions. All right, let's start off by saying, and also, by the way, I've distributed my notes to Tim, and nothing on it is proprietary. So if you want to get a copy of everything that I talk about right now later, reach out to Tim, and he's got my authorization to share the sheet that I'm working off of here. All right, let's start off with my first point. No one knows what the future holds, guys. And if anyone tells you that they do, don't trust them. All right, this is a very uncertain time. I talk all the time to college GMs and NFL scouts and people who are in the arena, and they all talk in contingencies. They all talk about, well, it depends on this and depends on that. Even though we are in the era of revenue sharing now, it's past July 1st, we don't even know what litigation is going to crop up. We don't know how Title IX is going to be decided. I don't think that NIL Go is going to work. I don't think you can limit trade the way that they're aspiring to do. What role is a collective going to have? These are just a few things that I think are very much up in the air right now, and there's a lot to be determined. Right now, they're just trying to work off of what rules we have right now. And so it is all very tentative. Everything that we talk about right now could change tomorrow. I know that that's not very comforting, but I think we have to try to play the hand that is dealt to us. And so that's kind of, I think, how I'm going to approach all this tonight. The new reality is, guys, and I recommend a book called The Price, if you've ever heard of it. It's written by Armin Katayan. It really lays out, I think, where we are right now in 2025 with respect to the amount of money that's moving around, the amount of money it takes to play football at this level, the amount of money it's going to take to build a roster post July 1st, 2025, all those aspects and facets of the game. I think it's really good. But the takeaway is it's going to take a lot. Now, I talked to P4 GMs, and every one of them says, oh, yeah, we'll come up with the money. Well, that's not really their role. They don't really worry about the money. They just worry about spending the money. That's always the easier part of all this. All right. I think that, Josh talked about how many have opted into revenue sharing, and that's true. But he also talked about how the commitment to revenue sharing and the amount of money that's going to be in play certainly varies. And I think that there's a good possibility that while we talk about P4, really what we have is P2 and then a couple others. We have the SEC and the Big Ten. Those schools aren't going to go away. They're going to have the money to spend. The Big 12, the ACC, probably so. G5, it's really uncertain. So I think that as you think in terms of the portal and going through your career and being recruited and all those kind of things, I think there are certain schools that are going to have the money and probably always will, but I don't know how certain it is for the other ones, and I don't think that anyone else really knows either. Okay, let's move my second point. Okay, so football now, as you move through this, and I'm not just saying this because of the people that are here who all have their own networks and who all have been working with people in the industry for a long time, and they're only on this call, only on this Zoom because of the networks they've built and the successes they've had. But this is a relationship business, and it's very tempting at times to get angry at someone and want to write them off or dismiss them. Don't do that. Do the best you can not to burn any bridges, but more so align yourself with people who know more people than you do and maybe even are a little smarter than you are. I've been my whole career on being the dumbest guy in the room, and I'm really comfortable with that. And I think y'all should consider that as well. Now, What I'm speaking about right now is a lot of you are parents who probably want to take your kids through the portal on your own once they get to that, if they have that opportunity, once they're in college football. Maybe even at the high school level, you're negotiating deals. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think if you speak to much college GMs, they're going to tell you 70% of the players that they work with, either recruiting from high school or during the transfer portal, are not represented by NFLPA licensed agents, i.e., they're not really professional negotiators, not really professional contract people. And I think that's fraught with risk. Now, you certainly have the right to do it that way, but I think it's smart to consider people like Tim and I think, 1,045 other NFLPA licensed agents, some of whom, not all of them, will do on NIL. But it's an important point to recognize there's no registration, there's no licensing, there's nothing like at all like that for NIL agents. So if you're a parent and you're thinking about going through this process, I strongly recommend you at least think about finding some kind of representation, but vet them a little bit too, because just because they have that NFLPA license doesn't mean necessarily that they know anything about the NIL process. The NIL process is built more on relationships. Who do you know? And persistence. Who are you willing to call? Who are you willing to talk to? Who are you willing to be told? I mean, what is your willingness? Do you have the stomach to be told to shut up, that you know nothing, that you suck? All right. Keep in mind, we have only had the transfer portal for 4 years, 3 years, something like that, two windows each. So we're in the infancy of this thing. We have no idea which direction it's going. And if you don't believe me, sit down with your nearest school's P4 GM or even G5, and they will tell you they're more or less making this up as they go along. They're trying to do the best they can, but there still are a lot of unknowns about this process, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Excuse me. Um, all right, player evaluation. Very difficult proposition right now. I think that we are conditioned to believe that NFL scouts are out there and they're professionals and they know everything about players and they only make wise decisions. But then we look at the first round, the record of the first round over the last 5 years, and we see how many players don't even make it to the last year of their deals. All right. We are seeing a watershed moment in player evaluation, both on the NFL and the college side right now. Okay. On the NFL side, what you're seeing is a greater number of new guard owners who are not traditional football people who made a lot of money through analytics. In fact, some of them can even base their fortunes on them. You better have a fortune if you're going to buy an NFL team. All right. They want to see those methods applied towards player evaluation. It's not always as smooth as it may seem to do those kind of things, but they still want to see it. So the result is you're seeing a lot younger people in NFL player evaluation. A lot of the more seasoned, grizzled veterans are being washed out. All right. Simultaneously, you're seeing a growth in the upper management part because someone's got to be the one who kind of assimilates all the data. And I could talk for an hour just on NFL scouting philosophy and the changes and why they're taking place and which schools are implementing, I mean, which teams are implementing what and what have you. Simultaneously, on the college side, what you're seeing is schools that typically use their coaches as their scouts who are being increasingly pressured to build NFL style scouting models. The leader in this right now is Oklahoma. Not only do they bring in the former executive director of the Senior Bowl, who has, I think, a 20-year record of NFL scouting before he got to Senior Bowl, they brought in a number of other executives with NFL on their resume to evaluate players. And we don't know if that's going to become the industry standard or not, but I guess we'll wait and see what kind of success Oklahoma has. Most schools still are depending on their coaches to do most of the evaluation. Now, those coaches in turn, more often than not, especially at the P4 level, are leaning on services that are, they're giving the 5-star and the 4-star and those kind of ratings to players. And we could talk a long time about how subjective that is as well. The important thing to know is it's very difficult to find the real value of who you are and where you fit into this model. Sometimes you can find, and the other thing to know is there are as many people as you can count that call themselves scouts, and some of them even look legitimate, and some of them even have NFL backgrounds or what have you. Kind of know who's telling you who you are because it's critical to know how you fit into this whole landscape and knowing your value, both on the NFL side as well as on the NIL side. I'm getting way behind here, and I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to wrap this up. Okay, the best way to be marketable, y'all, the best way to make money is by being a good player. And I don't, and I'm not taking anything away from what Cece said. Everything she said was true. But at the end of the day, if you want to get the revenue sharing dollars, and that's where most of the money is going to come from, is from being a successful player. Now, if you play certain high value positions, offensive tackle, defensive end, cornerback, quarterback, you're going to make more money than you will at other positions. That's the reality of things. All right. That's where the shortages are. Those people tend to make the biggest difference immediately. And college football is all about immediate results. And that's what the portal is about. So if you play those positions, you've got an advantage. You just got to make sure that you know how to take advantage of that. Again, using good counsel like Tim, like others, is one way to do that. I think I would say that if you've got an enhanced social media profile, you may be able to help yourself, may be able to drive more appeal on the recruiting side, especially as it relates to the December window and maybe even the spring window as well. But I think generally speaking, that's not true for the NFL. And I've seen it, lots of people try to go out and talk about how this and that and this and that and use whatever social media platform they want. The NFL is different, as you all know, because the NFL drafts players, whereas colleges have to recruit players. And there are a lot of fundamental differences that spring from that very critical difference. Again, that's something we could talk about for a long time. But I think at the end of the day, one thing to remember is your high school pedigree means a whole lot more on the college side than it does on the pro side. It doesn't travel with you quite as well once you get done with your college eligibility. And then I'm going to finish up with this. You have to, and it's something I've touched on a little bit earlier. You've got to be honest with yourself, okay? You've got to know your value. Find people that you feel you can trust. If you don't know who that is, talk to Tim, talk to me. There are other people we can direct you to that I don't make any money off of, that Tim doesn't make any money off of, that can give you a fair evaluation of who you are. I wouldn't ever lean on the recruiting services, the services that you pay to help you find a scholarship if you're a certain strata of the college, I'm sorry, the high school athletic spectrum. Those guys, obviously, it's in their best interest for you to feel like you're something special. And maybe you are. I'm not trying to denigrate anyone. It's just important to know that you get what you pay for and that you can't trust everyone out there. The other thing I think that's important, final point, your NFL value is maybe very different from your NIL portal value, i.e., you may not be an NFL prospect, but you can still make a lot of money in the portal, again, if you play these certain positions. In addition to the fact that if you're comfortable staying in college for a little while longer, and we're getting older and older players now, you may be foregoing your NFL future, but maybe you didn't have that NFL future in the first place. Maybe that is the right decision for you. Again, find solid counsel that you can trust, talk to them, think a lot about what your goals are and what you want to try to achieve. Those goals may be solely financial. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. That's the world we live in right now. So that's a very quick and dirty few bullet points. Again, Tim is welcome to, if you got value in that and you didn't get everything that I said, Tim is welcome to share those. I think this is being recorded as well. Anything that you might have questions on, you can ask me later. My Twitter handle is @InsideTheLeague. My DMs are open. I'm easy to find. I've got a podcast, I've got a blog, and of course the mothership, the website InsideTheLeague.com, where there's a contact us button. I'm happy to help everyone with one caveat. The NFLPA agent exam is in 11 days. We are the leader in exam prep. So I'm going to be the 21st, however many days that is. I'm going to be really busy for the next 11 days helping people get past the exam. But after that, if you have questions, I try to be, and I think Tim would attest to this, I try to be very responsive and I try to help people. I try to be a very genuine person. I know there are a lot of people out there you can't always trust. I want to be one of those people that you can. So if you're patient, if you're reasonable and you have a question, I'll do everything I can to help you out. I think it's only fair. It's a tough business, and I don't want to see anyone fall through the cracks. Thanks for having me on, Tim, and I guess I'll be